The boardroom smelled like old money and older resentment. Mahogany table, leather chairs that cost more than most people's cars. And at the head of it all sat Richard Hartwell, my father-in-law, looking at me like I was something he'd scraped off his Italian loafers. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. My name is Thomas Bennett. I'm 63 years old now, and I've been married to Catherine Hartwell for 37 years. We live in a modest bungalow in North York, Toronto. 600 square feet, 2 bedrooms. The kind of house where you can hear the furnace kick on in winter and smell what the neighbors are cooking for dinner. Catherine and I met in 1985 at a community center fundraiser. She was volunteering, serving coffee with a smile that made the November cold feel like summer. I was 26, working 2 jobs, wearing a suit jacket with patches on the elbows. She didn't care. She saw something in me that her family never would. We married 6 months later. Small ceremony. Her parents didn't attend. Richard Hartwell made it clear that his daughter was marrying beneath her station and he wanted nothing to do with it. Catherine chose me anyway. What Richard never knew, what Catherine herself didn't fully understand until much later, was that I wasn't just some working-class kid from Scarborough. My grandfather had been a silent partner in several mining ventures up north. When he died in 1983, I inherited everything. Mineral rights, land, investments that were just starting to pay off. By 1987, I was worth $43 million. By 1995, closer to $200 million. By 2010, just over $800 million. Today, if you want to be precise about it, I'm worth approximately $1.4 billion. And I never told anyone. Not my colleagues at the manufacturing plant where I worked for 30 years, not my neighbors. Not even my daughter Claire until she turned 30, especially not Richard Hartwell. Richard owned Hartwell Properties, a commercial real estate development company that built shopping centers and office towers across Ontario. He'd started it in 1972 with family money and decent business sense. By the time I married Catherine, he was worth maybe $12 million. Comfortable, respected in certain circles. What he didn't know was that starting in 1989, I'd been quietly buying shares in his company through a numbered corporation. 10% here, 15% there. Always through lawyers and offshore trusts. Always anonymous. By 2003, I owned 47% of Hartwell Properties. I was the largest shareholder. Every expansion Richard bragged about at family gatherings. Every successful development he credited to his leadership. Every single one had been funded with capital I'd approved. Every time the company faced a cash flow problem, my investment firm quietly injected the necessary funds. Richard Hartwell thought he was a self-made man. He had no idea he'd been building his empire on my money for 2 decades. Why did I do it? Honestly, at first it was just good business. Hartwell Properties was undervalued and positioned for growth. But as the years went by and Richard's contempt for me never wavered, it became something else. A quiet insurance policy. A trump card I never intended to play. Until last month. It started with a phone call from Catherine. Her voice had that tight quality it got when she was trying not to cry. "Dad wants to have dinner," she said. "All of us. He says it's important." In 37 years of marriage, Richard had invited us to exactly 4 family dinners. Catherine's mother's funeral, Claire's graduation, Catherine's 50th birthday, where he spent the entire evening talking to other guests. And now this. Did he say why? I asked. He mentioned something about the company. And Claire? Our daughter Claire was 35, unmarried, working as a social worker in Regent Park. She'd gotten her values from her mother, thank God. She lived in a small apartment, drove a 10-year-old Honda, and spent most of her salary helping clients who couldn't afford basic necessities. Richard had always been disappointed in her. Not wealthy enough, not ambitious enough. not interested in the family business. When? I asked Catherine. Saturday, 7 o'clock, his house in Rosedale. I'd been to Richard's house maybe a dozen times in 37 years. Each visit felt like a test I was designed to fail. The house itself was a monument to excess, 6,000 square feet, wine cellar, home theater, a garage that held 3 cars worth more than our entire home. We'll go, I told Catherine. Whatever this is about, we'll face it together. That Saturday, I put on my best suit. It was 10 years old, bought on sale at a discount store, but it fit well and I kept it pressed. Catherine wore a simple blue dress. We drove our 2015 Toyota Corolla through the November drizzle, past the mansions of Rosedale, and pulled up to Richard's circular driveway where a Tesla and a Mercedes already sat. The Mercedes belonged to Catherine's brother, Marcus. 42 years old, VP of sales at Hartwell Properties, living off daddy's money and calling it entrepreneurship. We rang the doorbell. A housekeeper I'd never seen before answered and led us to the formal dining room. The table could seat 12, but tonight there were only 6 place settings. Richard at the head naturally, his wife Patricia to his right, Marcus across from her, and 3 empty seats at the far end for the disappointments. Catherine, Richard said, standing. He was 71 now, still straight-backed and imperious. Silver hair, custom suit, a Rolex that cost more than most people's cars. You look well. He didn't acknowledge me at all. Patricia gave Catherine a brief hug, the kind wealthy women give when they don't want to wrinkle their clothes. Marcus nodded at us from across the table, already working on what looked like his second scotch. Where's Claire? Richard asked, checking his watch. She had an emergency at work, Catherine said quietly. One of her clients. A family situation. She said she's sorry. Richard's jaw tightened. Of course, always someone else's problems more important than her own family. I bit my tongue. 37 years of practice. We sat. The housekeeper brought out the first course. Some kind of soup with foam on top and a garnish I couldn't identify. Richard waited until we'd all been served before he spoke. I suppose you're wondering why I called this dinner. Catherine and I said nothing. Marcus smirked into his scotch. Hartwell Properties is at a crossroads, Richard continued. We've been approached by a development consortium, American investors. They want to buy the company. He paused for effect, the way he always did when he wanted people to understand the gravity of his words. The offer is substantial. $1.8 billion. Patricia gasped softly. Catherine's hand found mine under the table. Obviously, Richard continued, this is a family decision. The company has been my life's work, but I'm 71 years old. It's time to think about legacy, about what happens next. He looked directly at Marcus. I've already discussed this with your brother. He's in favor of the sale. The payout would set him up quite comfortably for life. Of course, Marcus was in favor. He'd never actually built anything. Just coasted on his father's success and waited for his inheritance. Catherine, Richard said, turning to my wife, you own a small percentage of company shares. 5%. From your mother's estate. Your vote matters. Catherine squeezed my hand tighter. What do you think I should do, Dad? I think, Richard said slowly, that you should consider what's best for your daughter. Claire has made it clear she has no interest in business, no interest in building wealth. She'd rather work with the homeless than learn how this world actually operates. I felt Catherine stiffen beside me. But with this sale, Richard continued, your 5% would be worth $90 million. Even after taxes, you'd have enough to set Claire up for life. Maybe convince her to stop wasting her talents on people who'll never appreciate it. The contempt in his voice when he talked about Claire's work made my blood pressure spike. But I stayed quiet, watching, waiting. There's one condition, though, Richard said. And now he finally looked at me. Really looked at me for the first time all evening. The buyers have done their due diligence. They've identified all the shareholders, including some numbered corporations and offshore trusts that have been investing in Hartwell Properties for years. My heart rate didn't change. Years of poker faces in business negotiations. They want all shareholders to agree to the sale, Richard said. Clean transfer, no complications. That's where things get interesting. He picked up a folder from beside his plate and slid it across the table. Not to Catherine, to me. Apparently, Thomas, you know something about one of these mystery shareholders, a corporation called Bennett Capital Holdings. I opened the folder. Inside were corporate documents, share certificates, investment records. Everything meticulously traced back through shell companies and trusts, all the way to me. The buyer's lawyers are very thorough, Richard said. Took them 3 months, but they figured it out. Bennett Capital Holdings, named after you, controlled by you, owner of 47% of my company. The silence in that dining room was absolute. Catherine turned to look at me, her face pale. Patricia's hand had frozen halfway to her wine glass. Marcus had stopped mid-sip, scotch dribbling down his chin. Only Richard seemed calm. But I could see it in his eyes, the rage, the humiliation, the absolute fury of a man who'd just discovered he'd been played for 35 years. You want to explain this, Thomas? Richard's voice was deadly quiet. I closed the folder carefully, took a sip of water. Let the moment breathe. Not particularly, I said. Not particularly. Richard's control started to crack. You've been secretly buying shares in my company for decades and you don't think you owe me an explanation? I don't owe you anything, Richard. I bought shares in a publicly traded company through legal channels. Nothing secret about it. Just private. Private? He was standing now, hands flat on the table. You've been sitting in my home for 37 years, letting me think you were some working-class nobody while you owned half my company? 47%, I corrected. Not quite half. Marcus found his voice. This is insane. Dad, he's been manipulating you this whole time, controlling the company, making decisions. Actually, I interrupted, I haven't made a single decision about Hartwell Properties. I've been a completely silent partner. Every choice, every expansion, every hire, every project, that was all your father. I just provided the capital when the banks wouldn't. Richard's face had gone purple. When the banks wouldn't, what are you talking about? 1993, I said calmly. The Mississauga project. You were overextended. The bank called in your line of credit. You were 72 hours from bankruptcy. A numbered corporation bought 15% of your shares and injected $4 million in operating capital. That was me. 2001, I continued. The tech bubble burst. Your company stock dropped 60%. You needed $12 million for the Oakville development or you'd lose your biggest client. Anonymous investors bought another 8% and provided bridge financing. That was me too. 2008, I said. Financial crisis. You remember that, Richard? Your net worth dropped by half in 6 months. You couldn't meet payroll. You were going to lay off 40 employees right before Christmas. A trust fund bought 9% of your shares and gave you an interest-free loan. Me again. The color had drained from Richard's face now. Every time your ego wrote checks your business couldn't cash, I said, I bailed you out. Quietly, anonymously, because it was good business. And because despite everything, I loved your daughter and didn't want to see her family destroyed. Catherine was staring at me like I was a stranger. Thomas, why didn't you tell me? Because you married me when I had nothing, I said, turning to her. You chose me over your family's money and approval. I never wanted you to question whether you made the right choice, whether you loved me or my wealth. But all these years, she whispered, we lived so modestly. I thought we were struggling sometimes. We were never struggling, sweetheart. I worked at the plant because I liked the work. We lived in the bungalow because it was a home, not a showpiece. We drove old cars because they ran fine. Money doesn't have to change who you are. Touching, Richard spat. Very touching. But here's what's going to happen now. You're going to sell your shares to the consortium, all 47%. You're going to take your payout and you're going to disappear from my family's life. I smiled. Actually smiled. No, I said simply. No? Richard's hands were shaking. You don't get to say no. The consortium wants 100% of the shares. If you refuse to sell, the deal falls apart. You'll destroy this sale out of spite? Not spite, I said. Principle. See, Richard, I've spent 37 years watching you treat my wife like a disappointment, watching you ignore your granddaughter because she chose compassion over commerce, watching you sneer at me across dinner tables making jokes about my car, my clothes, my career. I stood up now, buttoning my jacket. You built your fortune on my money while treating me like garbage, and now you want me to hand you $850 million and walk away quietly? What do you want? Richard demanded. More money? Name your price. I don't want more money, Richard. I want something you can't buy. What? Respect, I said. For Catherine, for Claire, for me. And an apology, a real one. Not a business negotiation, not a transaction. A genuine acknowledgement that you were wrong about us. The laugh that came out of Richard was bitter and harsh. You're insane. You want me to apologize for having standards, for wanting better for my daughter than a life of poverty? We were never in poverty, Catherine said quietly. She was looking at me with tears in her eyes, but her voice was steady. Were we, Thomas? Never, I confirmed. I set up a trust fund for Claire when she was born. She doesn't know about it yet. It's worth $75 million now. She can access it when she turns 40 or sooner if she needs it for something that matters to her. Catherine gasped. Claire had been asking us for help with a community center project, $5,000 to repair a roof. We'd told her we needed to save up. I also paid off your brother's gambling debts in 2015, I told Catherine. $50,000. He never knew it was me. I did it through his lawyer. Marcus went white. And your mother's cancer treatment, I continued. The experimental therapy that wasn't covered by insurance. That was me too. $200,000. Your father thought his insurance had expanded coverage. It hadn't. Patricia made a small sound. Almost a sob. So no, Richard, I said, turning back to my father-in-law. I'm not poor. I've never been poor. I'm worth about 3 times what this sale would give you, but I chose to live a normal life, to work hard, to raise our daughter with real values, to show her that worth isn't measured in bank statements. Richard sat down heavily. For the first time since I'd known him, he looked old. Actually old, not just distinguished. What do you want? He asked again, but quieter this time. I already told you, I said. Respect and apology, and changes. Changes. If this sale goes through, I said, I want 10% of my payout. That's $85 million to go into a charitable foundation. Catherine will run it. It'll fund community programs, homeless shelters, youth centers. The kind of work Claire does. Fine, Richard said quickly. Done. What else? I want you to publicly acknowledge what I did for this company. Not the full details, but the truth. That Bennett Capital Holdings was a major investor that saved Hartwell Properties multiple times. Richard's jaw clenched. His pride. Always his pride. And, he asked, and I want you to call your granddaughter tonight. Tell her you're proud of her work. Tell her she was right to follow her heart. Tell her she matters more than money. That's it? Richard asked suspiciously. That's it, I confirmed. Do those 3 things and I'll approve the sale. Everyone gets rich. Everyone wins. And if I refuse? I shrugged. Then I vote no. The deal dies. Hartwell Properties stays as it is. You keep running the company you've been running on my money. And every day for the rest of your life, you'll know that the man you look down on actually owned you. Marcus broke in. Dad, just do it. Just say the words. $1.8 billion is on the line. But Richard was staring at me with something I'd never seen before. Not quite respect, but recognition maybe, understanding. You could have told me any time, he said quietly. 35 years. You could have thrown it in my face at any family dinner, any argument. You had all the power and you never used it. I didn't need to use it, I said. I had Catherine, I had Claire. I had a good life. Your approval would have been nice, but it wasn't necessary. Then why reveal it now? Because, I said, and my voice hardened. You were about to pressure Catherine into voting for a sale that benefited you and Marcus while pretending it was for Claire's good. You were going to manipulate my wife one more time, and I'm done watching that. Catherine was crying now, but she was smiling too. She stood up and took my hand. I'm voting no, she said to her father. Even if Thomas approves the sale, I'm voting no unless you do exactly what he asked. Richard looked between us, then at Patricia, who was nodding slowly. Then at Marcus, who looked like he wanted to flip the table. You're both insane, Marcus said. Dad, don't let them blackmail you. It's not blackmail, Patricia said quietly. It was the first time she'd spoken all evening. It's consequences. We've treated them terribly for 37 years. We've been living off Thomas's money while sneering at his life choices. He's offering us a way out that lets us keep our dignity. There's no dignity in groveling, Marcus snapped. There's no dignity in what we've done either, Patricia replied. She looked at Catherine. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, sweetheart. We should have been there at your wedding. We should have welcomed Thomas. We should have celebrated who you both are instead of mourning who we wanted you to be. Catherine crossed the room and hugged her mother. Both of them are crying now. Richard watched them. Then he looked at me. The foundation, he said. Catherine runs it. Full control? Full control, I confirmed. The public acknowledgement. How public? Press release, maybe an interview or two. Nothing that reveals the full extent of our arrangement. Just the truth that Bennett Capital was crucial to the company's success. And the phone call to Claire? Tonight, I said firmly. From the heart, not a performance. Richard stood, walked to the window, looked out at his perfectly manicured lawn, his fountain, his symbols of success. I've been running this company for 52 years, he said finally. Started from nothing. Built it into an empire. That's what I told myself anyway. That's the story I believed. He turned back to face me. But you're right. 3 times I nearly lost everything. 3 times I was saved by anonymous investors who I assumed were just smart money recognizing a good opportunity. I never thought to question it. Never thought to be grateful. He crossed the room and stood in front of me. I apologize, Thomas, he said. The words came out stiff, formal, but genuine. I judged you on your bank account and your job title instead of your character. I treated you like you weren't good enough for my daughter when the truth is she made the best choice of her life when she chose you. He turned to Catherine. I apologize to you too, sweetheart, for not being at your wedding, for making you feel like you had to choose between us and him, for wasting 37 years being stubborn when I could have had a relationship with my daughter. Catherine nodded, unable to speak. Richard pulled out his phone. I'm calling Claire now, in front of all of you. He dialed, put it on speaker. Claire answered on the 3rd ring. Grandpa, is everything okay? Everything's fine, Claire, Richard said, and his voice cracked slightly. I just wanted to call and tell you something I should have said a long time ago. I'm proud of you. The work you do, the person you are, the values you stand for. You were right to follow your heart. And you matter more than any business deal or any amount of money. There was silence on the other end. Then Claire's voice, small and shocked. Grandpa, did something happen? Are you sick? No, Richard said, and he was almost smiling. I'm just finally getting healthy. Can you come by tomorrow? I'd like to talk. Really talk. About your work. About what matters to you. I'd like that, Claire whispered. I'd really like that. They said goodbye. Richard ended the call and looked at me. Satisfactory? He asked. It's a start, I said. The sale went through 6 weeks later, $1.8 billion distributed according to share ownership. Richard and Patricia got just under $600 million after taxes. Marcus got $75 million, Catherine got $90 million from her 5%. I got $846 million plus the $1.4 billion I already had. $85 million went into the Hartwell Family Foundation, with Catherine as executive director. The first grant went to the community center where Claire worked. Full renovation, new roof, new everything. Richard gave 3 interviews where he acknowledged that Bennett Capital Holdings had been instrumental in the company's success. He didn't mention it was me. That was fine. The people who mattered knew the truth. Catherine and I sat down and had a long conversation about what we wanted to do next. We kept the bungalow in North York. We liked it, but we bought the house next door too when it went up for sale and combined them. Created a community space where Claire could run programs. We upgraded to a 2023 Corolla. It seemed like time. Catherine threw herself into running the foundation. It turned out she had a gift for it, identifying real needs. Connecting with communities, making money work for people instead of just sitting in accounts. Claire was furious with me for about a week when she found out about everything. Furious that we'd let her struggle. Furious that we'd hidden who we were. Then she calmed down and we talked. I needed to know I could make it on my own, she said. If I'd known you had billions, I would have always wondered if I was really helping people or just playing at charity with your money. You were helping people, I told her. That was always real. I know that now, she said, because I did it without the money. But Dad, when I turn 40 and get access to that trust fund, I'm going to do so much good with it. I know you will, I said. That's why I set it up. The real surprise came 3 months after the sale. Richard called me. Not Catherine, me. I'd like to have lunch, he said. Just the 2 of us, no business, just talking. We met at a diner in North York. Not some fancy restaurant. A place with vinyl booths and coffee that came in thick ceramic mugs. Richard showed up in jeans and a polo shirt. I'd never seen him in jeans. We ordered burgers and fries. Patricia and I are moving, he said, selling the Rosedale house, buying a condo downtown, something smaller. Yeah? Turns out I don't need 6,000 square feet to feel successful, he said. Funny how that works. He ate a fry. It looked uncomfortable. I've been thinking a lot, he said finally. About what you said at the dinner, about respect, about worth. Okay. I spent 50 years measuring everything by money. Who had it? Who didn't? What it meant about their value as people, and I was wrong. He looked at me directly. You worked in a factory for 30 years when you could have bought the factory. You drove old cars when you could have had anything. You lived in a small house when you could have had a mansion. Why? Because those things didn't matter, I said simply. What mattered was coming home to Catherine every night, watching Claire grow up, having neighbors who borrowed our lawnmower and brought us cookies at Christmas, being part of a community instead of above it. I miss that, Richard said quietly. I built this empire and I missed everything that mattered. Patricia and I barely know each other anymore. Marcus only calls when he wants something. I spent 37 years without a relationship with Catherine because I was too proud to admit I was wrong. He pushed his plate away. I can't get those years back, he said. But I'd like to try to do better with whatever time is left, if you and Catherine would let me. It's not up to me, I said. It's up to Catherine and Claire. I know. I'm having this conversation with them too. But I wanted to talk to you first, to say thank you. For the money? For loving my daughter better than I did. For raising my granddaughter right. For saving my company without ever asking for recognition. For being a better man than I gave you credit for. We finished lunch. Richard insisted on paying. I let him. As we left the diner, he stopped on the sidewalk. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Sure. When did you decide to reveal everything? You could have stayed silent forever. Let the sale happen without anyone knowing." I thought about it. "When you started using Claire as leverage," I said honestly. "When you tried to convince Catherine that selling was about helping Claire when it was really about helping yourself. That's when I knew I had to step in. To protect them." "Always," I said. "That's what family does." Richard nodded slowly. "I'm learning that," he said. "Better late than never, I hope." That was 6 months ago. Today, Catherine and I were sitting on our back deck, watching the sun set over our combined property. The community center side was full of kids, Claire running an after-school program. "Do you regret it?" Catherine asked me. "Keeping the secret so long?" "Never," I said. "The secret wasn't the point. The life we built was the point. But we could have had so much more, traveled more, done more." "We had enough," I said. "We always had enough." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "I love you, Thomas Bennett. I loved you when I thought you worked in a factory. I loved you when I found out you owned half my father's company. And I love you now. The money doesn't change anything." "That's why I married you," I said. We sat in comfortable silence. "There's one more thing I never told you," I said after a while. Catherine lifted her head. "What?" "Please don't tell me you own Amazon or something," I laughed. "No, nothing like that. It's about your father." "What about him?" "Remember I said I owned 47% of Hartwell Properties through Bennett Capital?" "Yes." "And your father owned about 33%, Marcus had 15%, and you had 5%? "Yes, that's what he told us." I shook my head. "That wasn't quite accurate. Richard didn't own 33%. Catherine frowned. "Then how much did he own?" 23%, I said. "The other 10% was held by another numbered corporation. Preston Holdings." "I don't understand." "Preston was your mother's maiden name," I said gently. "When your mother died in 2018, she left everything to you in her will, including 10% of Hartwell Properties that she'd purchased years ago with her inheritance from her own parents. Richard never knew about it. She'd kept it separate." Catherine's eyes widened. "My mother owned part of the company?" "She did. And she left it to you, which meant you didn't own 5% of Hartwell Properties when we voted on the sale." "How much did I own?" 15%, I said. "You owned 15%, Catherine, which meant your share of the sale wasn't 90 million. I pulled out an envelope from my pocket, handed it to her. "It was 270 million, I said, after taxes. The extra funds were just deposited into a private account yesterday. In your name only." Catherine stared at the bank statement, at the number with all those zeros. "Thomas, this is insane. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted to see what you do with the 90 million first," I said. "And you did exactly what I knew you'd do. You put it into the foundation. You used it to help people. You didn't buy a mansion or fancy cars or any of the things your father would have expected. Of course not, she said. That money can do so much good. Exactly, I said. So now you have another choice. This money is yours. Truly yours, not ours, not the family's, yours. What do you want to do with it? Catherine looked at the statement, then at the community center where Claire was helping a kid with homework, then at our modest combined bungalow. I want to expand the foundation, she said slowly. I want to create programs across the country. I want to fund 100 community centers like the one Claire runs. I want to help people the way we were never helped because we never needed it. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. Is that okay? I kissed her forehead. It's more than okay, it's perfect. It's exactly who you are. But what about us? Don't you want to travel to enjoy the money? I am enjoying it, I said. Every time I see you light up talking about the foundation, every time Claire calls to tell us about a family she helped. Every Sunday dinner at our house with your parents. Actually talking and laughing instead of measuring each other's worth. My father really has changed, Catherine said. He volunteers at the soup kitchen now. Did you know that? I heard, I said. Patricia told me. Said he comes home talking about the people he meets, actually seeing them as people. It's never too late to change, Catherine said. No, I agreed, it's not. We sat there as the sun set, watching kids play, listening to Claire's voice carrying across the yard, feeling the evening breeze on our skin. Thank you, Catherine said quietly. For what? For seeing me when nobody else did, for choosing me, for building this life with me, for being patient with my family, for loving Claire so completely, for everything. You don't have to thank me for loving you, I said. That was the easiest thing I ever did. She smiled. Even easier than making $1.4 billion? Way easier, I said. The money was just luck and timing. You were a choice, the best choice I ever made. 6 months later, something happened that I didn't see coming. Richard called a family meeting, all of us, Catherine, Claire, Marcus, Patricia, and me. We gathered at the downtown condo, much smaller than the Rosedale mansion, but warmer somehow, filled with light and photos of family. I have an announcement, Richard said once we were all settled. Marcus immediately looked nervous. Dad, if this is about money, it's not about money, Richard interrupted. Not directly anyway. Patricia and I have been doing a lot of thinking, a lot of talking. We've been blessed with resources we didn't earn and don't particularly need. He looked at Catherine. Your foundation has been incredibly successful. 6 new community centers opened in the last year. Hundreds of families helped. Real impact. Thank you, Dad, Catherine said. Patricia and I want to contribute, Richard continued. We're donating $200 million to the foundation, to be used however Catherine sees fit. The room went silent. Richard, I said carefully, that's very generous, but let me finish, he said. There's more. Marcus and I have been talking too. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. My son has spent his whole life in my shadow, Richard said. Living off money he didn't earn. Working in a company where he got the job because of his last name. Never figuring out who he actually is or what he actually wants. Dad, Marcus said quietly. It's true, Richard continued, and I enabled it. I made it too easy for you to coast. So here's what's happening. Marcus is taking a year off. He's going to travel. He's going to volunteer with some of the foundation programs. He's going to figure out who he is when he's not Richard Hartwell's son. Marcus looked at his father with something like gratitude. And when he comes back, Richard said, if he wants to work, he'll start from the bottom somewhere, earn his way up, build something himself. I've already enrolled in some courses, Marcus admitted. Community development, social work. I want to understand what Claire does, what actually helps people. Claire's jaw dropped. You're serious? Dead serious, Marcus said. I've been useless my whole life. Might as well try being useful. Richard turned to me. Ann Thomas, I have a question for you. All right. What are you doing with your $1.4 billion? I shrugged. Same as always, living modestly, investing wisely, trying to do some good. That's not enough, Richard said. Excuse me? You have the resources to change thousands of lives, tens of thousands. You're sitting on all this wealth and you're still driving a Corolla. I smiled. The Corolla runs fine. I'm serious, Thomas. You've been hiding your whole life. Playing small. Yes, you live with integrity. Yes, you raised your family right, but you could do so much more. What do you suggest? Partner with Catherine on the foundation. Really partner. Use your business expertise, your connections, your resources. Stop being the silent investor and start being the change you clearly want to see in the world. I looked at Catherine. She was nodding. He's right, she said. I love that you're humble. I love that money doesn't define you, but hiding your wealth isn't humility anymore. It's a waste. We could help so many people. I don't want attention, I said. Then don't take it, Richard said. Work behind the scenes. Do what you've always done, but bigger, better. The world needs people with resources who actually give a damn. Be one of them. Patricia leaned forward. Thomas, you spent 37 years proving you were more than your money. You proved it. We all see it. Now use that money for something bigger than proving a point. I sat back thinking. They were right. I'd spent so long avoiding my wealth, hiding from it, proving I was valuable without it, that I'd forgotten wealth itself isn't evil. It's neutral. It's what you do with it that matters. All right, I said finally. I'm in, but on one condition. What? Catherine asked. When we do it as a family, all of us. Richard, you've got business experience. Patricia, you've got social connections. Marcus, you'll bring a fresh perspective after your year of service. Claire, you know what communities actually need. Catherine runs it, but we all contribute. The Hartwell Family Foundation, Patricia said softly. Actually living up to the name. Exactly, I said. Richard smiled, actually smiled at me with genuine warmth. You know what's funny? He said. What? I spent 50 years trying to build a legacy, a company with my name on it, buildings, developments, things that will last after I'm gone. He looked around at all of us. But this, he said, this family, this work, this is the actual legacy, not the money, not the buildings, the people we help. The lives we change. That's what lasts. 1 year later, we held the opening ceremony for the 10th Hartwell Family Community Center. This one was special. It was in Scarborough, in the neighborhood where I grew up, where Catherine and I first met. The building was beautiful. 3 stories, gym, library, computer lab, kitchen for cooking classes, spaces for art, music, counseling, job training. 200 people showed up for the opening. Families from the neighborhood, local politicians, press. Catherine gave the speech. She was a natural at this now, comfortable in front of crowds, confidence. This foundation exists because of a choice, she said. The choice to see value in people instead of just in bank accounts, to measure success by lives changed instead of dollars earned, to build a community instead of just buildings. She gestured to me. My husband taught me that lesson. He's the wealthiest person I know, not because of his bank balance, but because of how he chooses to live, how he treats people, what he values. I felt my face flush, still not comfortable with public attention. But this center and the 9 others like it exist because we all learned that lesson together, Catherine continued. My father learned it. My mother, my brother, my daughter already knew it. And now we're trying to share it with everyone who walks through these doors. You matter, she said, looking out at the crowd. Not because of what you own or what you earn, but because you're human, because you're part of this community, because you deserve opportunity and respect and support. The crowd applauded. The doors opened. People flooded in to explore. I stood to the side watching. Richard joined me. Quite something, isn't it? It is, I agreed. You know what I regret most? He asked. What? The wedding, he said quietly. Yours and Catherine's. I should have been there. I should have walked my daughter down the aisle. I should have welcomed you into the family. That was a long time ago, I said. Doesn't make it hurt less, Richard said. I threw away 35 years because of pride. You're making up for it now. Am I? He looked at me. Can you ever really make up for that kind of loss? I thought about it. No, I said honestly. You can't get those years back, but you can make the remaining years count, and you're doing that. We're doing that, he corrected, all of us together. Claire came running over, breathless. Dad, Grandpa, you have to see this. There's a woman here. She says she remembers you both from years ago. We followed Claire inside. An older woman, maybe 75, stood in the lobby holding a photo. Mr. Bennett? She said tentatively. Yes? I'm Dorothy Evans. You probably don't remember me, but in 1985 you helped me. My husband had died. I had 3 kids. I was about to lose our apartment. You were working at the community center fundraiser where you met your wife. The memory came back slowly. A woman at one of the tables, crying. Catherine had brought her coffee. I remember, I said. You sat with me, Dorothy continued. You and your girlfriend. You listened to my whole story. And then the next week, an anonymous donation paid my rent for 6 months. Gave me time to find work. To get back on my feet. She showed us the photo. It was from the fundraiser. Catherine and I, so young, serving coffee and smiling. That was you? I asked. The anonymous donation? I didn't have much, Dorothy said. But I had some savings from my grandfather, and you showed me that strangers could care, that people could help each other. I wanted to pass that on. Tears were running down Catherine's face. My kids all graduated college, Dorothy said. They're all doing well, and it's because someone gave me a chance when I needed it most. I just wanted to say thank you for showing me kindness when I was invisible to everyone else. She pressed the photo into Catherine's hands. Keep this. Remember that every small act of kindness ripples out. You never know who you're helping or what it might mean. Dorothy walked away to explore the center. Catherine and I stood there. Looking at the photo, 2 kids, barely adults with no idea what the future held. We've been doing this all along, Catherine whispered. Haven't we? Even before the money, even before the foundation, we've always been trying to help people. It's who you are, I said. It's who you've always been. The money just lets you do it on a bigger scale. Richard was watching us, his eyes wet. I judged you so wrong, he said. Both of you. I thought wealth was the measure of a person, but you 2 were rich in the ways that actually matter long before the money came. That night back at home, Catherine and I sat in our kitchen, the same kitchen where we'd eaten thousands of meals, where we'd done homework with Claire, where we'd made plans and dreams and built our life together. I need to tell you something, Catherine said. Okay. I've known, she said quietly. My heart stopped. Known what? About the money, about who you really were. I've known for a long time. I stared at her. How long? Since about year 5 of our marriage, she said. 1990, I found some papers, investment statements. I saw the numbers. I saw the name of your grandfather's company. You never said anything. Neither did you, she pointed out gently. And I realized why you weren't saying anything. You wanted to make sure I loved you for you, that our life was real, that the choices we made were genuine. Why didn't you tell me you knew? For the same reason, she said simply. I wanted you to know my love was real, that I wasn't staying for money, that I chose you every day, not your bank account. I laughed. Actually, I laughed. We spent 37 years hiding the same secret from each other. We spent 37 years protecting each other, Catherine corrected, protecting what we built, making sure it was real. It was always real, I said. I know, she said, but we both needed to prove it, to ourselves, to each other, and we did. She took my hand. The best revenge against my father wasn't revealing your wealth. It was building a life so genuine, so full of love and purpose, that his approval became irrelevant. You won the moment we stopped needing him to see our worth. When did you stop needing it? I asked. Honestly? About year 10, when Claire was little and I watched you be such an amazing father. When I saw you come home tired from the factory and still get on the floor to play with her. When you fixed the neighbor's fence just because they needed help. That's when I knew we'd built something worth more than any inheritance or approval. And the reveal at the dinner? I asked. Did you know I was planning that? No, she admitted. That surprised me. I figured you'd take the secret to the grave. But when you stood up to him, when you demanded respect for all of us, I fell in love with you all over again. We sat in silence for a moment. There's one more thing, I said. Oh God, what now? Please don't tell me you're actually a prince or something. I laughed. No, nothing like that. But remember when I said I set up a trust for Claire worth $75 million? Yes. I set one up for you too, I said. Separate from everything else, in your name only. You've had access to it since you turned 50. You just never checked. Catherine's eyes widened. How much? As of today, about 300 million, I said. It's been growing for years. Completely separate from the Hartwell Properties sale. Your personal security. Always there if you needed it. Thomas, you've known about my wealth for decades and never touched it. Never asked for anything. Never changed who you were. I wanted you to have something that was yours. No strings, no conditions, just knowing you were taken care of, whether you were with me or not. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I would never leave you. I know, I said, but life happens, things change. I wanted you to have freedom, real freedom, the kind that comes from knowing you're choosing this life, not trapped in it. She kissed me. Soft and long and full of 37 years of love. I choose this, she said. The bungalow, the Corolla, the simple life. I choose you. Not because of money or lack of it, but because you're the best man I've ever known. Even better than the guys your father wanted you to marry, I teased. Especially better than them, she said. Those guys measured their worth in stock portfolios and golf club memberships. You measured yours in kindness and integrity and love. No contest. 5 years after that community center opening, I'm sitting on the same back deck watching another sunset. I'm 68 now, Catherine is 67. We still live in the bungalow, though we've made some upgrades, better heating, solar panels, a garden that Catherine loves. The Hartwell Family Foundation now operates in 47 cities across North America. We've opened 32 community centers. We've funded scholarship programs, job training initiatives, mental health services, and affordable housing projects. Claire runs the whole operation now. Catherine stepped back to advisory role 2 years ago, wanting to spend more time with her grandkids. Yes, grandkids. Claire met someone at one of the centers, a teacher. They have twin boys now, 4 years old, full of energy and questions. Richard died last year, heart attack, quick and peaceful. But before he went, he lived 5 good years. Years where he actually knew his family, where he volunteered and helped and learned what really mattered. At his funeral, dozens of people showed up who we didn't know. People from the soup kitchen, families from the community centers. Lives he'd touched in those final years. He became the man he should have been all along, Patricia said at the service. Better late than never. Marcus runs 3 of the community centers now. He found his calling in youth programs. Turns out he's amazing with teenagers, especially troubled ones. They respect him because he's honest about his own wasted years. I spent 40 years being useless, he tells them. Don't make my mistake. Figure out what matters while you're young. Patricia works with domestic violence survivors now, quietly, gently, using her own experience of feeling trapped in a marriage defined by wealth and status to help other women find their voices. I had everything and nothing at the same time, she tells them. Money doesn't equal freedom. You have to build that yourself. The foundation has given away over $800 million in 5 years. Real money doing real good. And me? I still drive the Corolla, still live simply. But now I spend my days working with the foundation's investment committee, making sure the money grows faster than we give it away, making sure this work continues long after we're gone. Last week, a young couple came to one of our centers. He was 26, working 2 jobs. She was 25, volunteering, serving coffee with a smile. They reminded me of us. The center director called me. There's a situation. They need help with rent just for a few months while he finishes his certification. Do it, I said. Anonymous donation. Don't tell them where it came from. How much? Enough, I said. Whatever they need to get stable. Because that's the thing about revenge. Real revenge isn't about destroying the people who wronged you. It's about proving them so completely wrong that their judgment becomes meaningless. Richard Hartwell thought wealth was measured in dollars. I proved it's measured in lives touched. He thought success meant buildings with your name on them. I proved it means communities where people thrive. He thought power came from control and dominance. I proved it comes from lifting others up. For 37 years, I owned nearly half his company while he treated me like trash. I could have destroyed him at any moment, taken over, humiliated him, crushed him. Instead, I helped him, saved him. And in doing so, I gave him the chance to become better. That's the revenge that matters, not tearing someone down, but showing them what they could have been all along, giving them the opportunity to change. And then, if they take it, celebrating their growth instead of their fall. Catherine comes out onto the deck carrying 2 cups of tea. What are you thinking about? She asks. Everything, I say. Nothing. The whole journey. Any regrets? Not one, I say honestly. You? Only that we didn't tell each other the truth sooner, she says. Think of all the years we spent hiding from each other. We weren't hiding, I say. We were protecting what we built, making sure it was real. It was always real, she says. I know that now, I say. But we both needed to prove it, and we did. We sit in comfortable silence, drinking our tea, watching the sun paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Thomas? Catherine says after a while. Yeah? Thank you for choosing me, for seeing me, for building this life with me, for being patient with my family, for loving our daughter so well, for everything. You already thanked me for that, I reminded her. Years ago. I know, she says, but I'll thank you every day for the rest of my life. Because you deserve to hear it. I take her hand. You're welcome, and thank you for choosing me back, For loving me when I had nothing. For loving me when you found out I had everything. For being exactly who you are, no matter what. The sun sinks below the horizon. The sky fades from orange to purple to deep blue. Lights come on in the community center next door. Laughter carries across the yard. The sound of people connecting, learning, growing. This is the revenge I chose. Not destruction, but creation. Not humiliation, but elevation. Not tearing down, but building up. Richard Hartwell spent 50 years trying to prove he was better than everyone else. I spent 37 years proving that everyone else mattered just as much as him. In the end, I didn't just win. I changed the game entirely, and that, more than any amount of money, more than any business victory, more than any moment of public triumph, that is what real success looks like. Catherine leans her head on my shoulder. I put my arm around her. Worth it? She asks softly. Every second, I say, and I mean it. Because the best revenge isn't getting even, it's living so well, loving so fully, and doing so much good that the people who doubted you have no choice but to see they were wrong. And if they're smart enough, if they're humble enough, if they're brave enough, they'll learn from it. Richard did in the end. And that's a better ending than any story of destruction could ever be. So what's the lesson here? It's not that wealth is good or bad. It's neutral, a tool. It's not that revenge is wrong. Sometimes standing up for yourself, for your worth, for your family, that's necessary and right. The lesson is this. The best way to prove someone wrong isn't to destroy them. It's to build something so beautiful, so meaningful, so true that their judgment becomes irrelevant. Richard Hartwell thought I wasn't good enough for his daughter because I was poor. I didn't get rich to prove him wrong. I was already rich. I just chose to live differently. And in living that way, in choosing values over valuables, integrity over image, love over legacy, I built something he couldn't buy with all his money. A real marriage, a real family, a real life. When he finally saw that, when he finally understood what actually mattered, he changed. And that change, that transformation, that's worth more than any business victory. So if someone looks down on you, if someone judges you, if someone tells you you're not good enough, remember this. You don't have to destroy them. You just have to live so well that eventually they see the truth. And if they never see it, that's okay too. Because you're not living for their approval. You're living for yourself, for the people you love, for the impact you want to make. That's the real revenge. That's the real victory. That's the life worth living. And 37 years later, sitting on my deck with the woman I love, watching the good we've done ripple out into the world, I can tell you with absolute certainty, this was the right choice. Not the easy one, but the right one. And that makes all the difference.